This video covers the content in Section 1 of the textbook, which is Units 1 through 5, Mathematical Operations with Whole Numbers. In the first unit, we look at addition of whole numbers. And this is working by hand, not with a calculator, so I thought I'd just show a few methods. One of the important things about adding whole numbers, or actually adding any numbers, especially if they're measurements, is that they should all be in the same unit before you begin. So these are all in feet. It wouldn't make sense to add some feet and some inches and so on. So please make sure you are adding your measurements all in the same unit. Now, another thing to notice is when we line these up, we line them up according to place values. So if you notice, the place value for the ones unit is right down this column here. And the place value for the tens is this way. So it's really going to help you if you organize and keep it neat that way if you're adding by hand. So now with addition, what we do is we look down the ones column and we just add up all the numbers in the ones column. 0 plus 6 plus 5 plus 1, and that is 12. So I only put the ones digit of 12, all right, so there's 12. The ones digit is the 2, so I put it here. And the tens digit I put in my tens column to add to my tens. All right, so I put a 1 up there above it. So now I add the tens column, 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 0 plus 1. So that is 5. And the sum is 52. Sum is a word we use for the result of adding. In number 2, I haven't lined it up yet, so I thought this could be a practice for you if you were to pause the video and set up your question as I have in number 1 and find the sum of these 4 measurements. Okay, as you can see, I have lined up my ones units, or my ones digits, and my tens digits down this way, and I will add up each column. 9 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4. So 9 and 4 is 13, and 3 more is 16, and 4 more is 20. We will look at that number 20, all right? I'm only putting the ones digit in the ones column. The 2, which is in the tens, I will put above my tens column and include that in my sum of the tens digits. 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 0, and that is 5. So that sum is 50 feet, actually, and I should include this over here too, feet. Oh, and number 3, here's a word problem that you can look at, and actually, when you finish reading it, you can pause the video and find the answer for yourself first, and I will complete it after. A contractor buys 200 board feet of white pine on Monday, 850 board feet of white pine on Tuesday, and 1,260 board feet of white pine on Wednesday. How many board feet of white pine did the contractor buy in total? Pause the video and find the answer. Okay, these numbers are all in board feet, which means we need to add 200, 850, and 1,260. And if I line them all up like this, now I have my numbers situated so that I can add them. 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0. 0 plus 5 plus 6 is 11. Okay, so 11, we put the ones digit here, the tens digit next. And continue adding 1 plus 2, that's 3, plus 8, that's 11, plus 2, that's 13. I will put the 1's digit here and keep the 1 there, and then 1 plus 1 is 2. This is board feet. In Unit 2, we look at subtraction of whole numbers. And similar to the carrying of digits, like I did with addition, we have to use something called borrowing sometimes. So let's take a look at number 4. Notice, again, they're both in inches, so we're ready to go ahead and find this difference. When you subtract, you find a difference. When you add, you find a sum. All right, and again, we work in columns. So this is my 1's. I will do 8 subtract 7. That is 1. Move over to the next column. 4 subtract 2. That is 2. Move over to the next column. 1 subtract, this is actually a 0. 1 subtract 0 is 1. And that's in inches. Borrowing was not required. Why was it not required? Each time I began to subtract, I subtracted a number that was less than the number I was beginning with. So I wasn't going into the negative. So borrowing wasn't necessary. In the next example, you will see we do need to borrow. Here, borrowing is required, and let's see how it's done. The reason it is required, 0 is less than 4. So I can't do 0 subtract 4 and stay in the positive. So I need to borrow, and I need to think of this 260 as, right? So we want to think 260 is 250 plus 10, right? So if I think of this as a 10, and I put a 1 there, and then I make this a 5. Now I can look at the first column and do 10 subtract 4, and that is 6. And then I can go to the next column, and instead of 6 subtract 2, it is now 5 subtract 2, which is 3. And then 2 subtract 1, which is 1, and this is in inches. Before you begin the next question, think about whether borrowing is going to be required. Can you tell before you begin? And yes, if you notice, I'm going to have to do 2 subtract 7. Well, 2 is less than 7, so I will need to borrow a 10 from this 432 to make it 422 and 12. So I will borrow 1 here and make this a 2. So now, when I look at the first column, it's 12 subtract 7, which is 5. For a second time, I will need to borrow. And I want to borrow from the third column. I want to make this, instead of 2 subtract 6, I want to make this 12 subtract 6. So I'll change this to a 3, and it is bumped up by 10. 12 subtract 6 is 6. 3 subtract 2 is 1. So we had to borrow twice. Have a look at this diagram and think about how you would determine the missing dimension x. The diagram tells us that the full length is 18 feet from this side to this side. It also tells us 3 different sections, one of them missing, and we know that this section here is 4 feet, This section in here is 9 feet. So we need to do 18 feet subtract this total. Well, we want to find out what that total is. That total is 4 feet and 9 feet. 13 feet. So we need to find the difference between 18 feet and 13 feet, and that will give us our x. So now we need to subtract 18 feet minus 13 feet. 8 minus 3 is 5. 1 minus 1 is 0. That will be in feet. So x is equal to 5 feet. In Unit 3, we look at multiplication of whole numbers. And now we want to multiply 28 feet by 6. So, for example, I need 6 lengths of 28 feet. What would be the total? And so for multiplying, what happens is I need to multiply 6 by the first digit and 6 by the second, or 6 by the ones digit and 6 by the tens digit. And it is very helpful to picture columns again as you do this, okay? So keep things organized and in columns. 6 times 8. Well, 6 times 8 is 48. I will write down the ones digit. I will place the 4 up here. And then I will do 6 times 2 and add 4. 12. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. And that would be feet. For the next example, we are now multiplying a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. So let's keep our columns very organized. All right, just as we multiplied 6 by each of the digits above it, I will multiply 4 by 8. So 4 times 8 is 32. I want to write down the ones digit here and the tens digit there. I will multiply 4 by 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Add 3. 7. So that's 18 times 4. Now, we have to remember something important. We are doing 18 times 4, and we're going to add 18 times 20, not by 2. This is actually a 20, because of the tens, it's 10 digit. So in order to increase that by a factor of 10, we need to move over. And so we will save this place by putting in a 0. And I will begin my multiplication here. 2 times 8 is 16. I will place my 6 here. Let's tidy that up. And my 1 will go above. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I have 2 rows. This number is 18 times 4. And this number is 18 times 20. And when we add those two, we get 18 times 24. So we just have to add these two columns. 2 plus 0 is 2. 7 plus 6 is 13. Let's put the 3 and we will carry the 1. And 1 plus 3 is 4. 18 times 24 is 432, and that will be in feet. Number 10 is a word problem. In making a table, 15 board feet of oak are used, including waste. How much stock is needed to complete an order of 26 tables? So each table requires 15 board feet of oak. We will make 26 tables using 15 of board feet of oak each. That means we need to multiply. Pause the video and try this multiplication. 15 board feet multiplied by 26. So we will multiply 6 by 15 and 20 by 15. I will find 6 times 15 by first 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. I will place the 0 here and the 3 above. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. All right, so 6 times 15 is 90. Let's just keep track of that. That is 6 times 15. Next, we will move down and find 20 times 15. So in order to find 20 times 15, then what I need to do is I will do 2 times 15, but I will move over to the second column. So I save this place by putting a 0. And in this column, I will do 2 times 5, which is 10. And so I will put my 0, that corresponds to this one. And I will save the 1 in the tens column. And 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, the product of 15 times 26 is equal to 15 times 6 plus 15 times 20. So let's add these two up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 0 is 9. And 3. So 390 board feet will be required to produce 26 tables. In Unit 4, we look at division of whole numbers. So we'll take a look at 114 inches divided by 6. So we will take our 114 and we're going to divide it by 6. 6 is called the divisor. It's the thing doing the dividing. And we want to ask ourselves, how many times does 6 go into 114? Well, that's a little bit much to know right away. So we can back this up a little bit and bring it back 1 decimal place. How many times does 6 go into 11? And if that was too high to think about, you can move back more until you get to a reasonable number to figure out. So how many times does 6 go into 11? Well, I know that 6 times 2 is 12, so it doesn't go twice. It goes once. So the answer we'll put is 1, and we need to put it directly above the ones unit. So the first step that we did was divide. 11 divided by 6. And we only get a 1 for the whole number. The next step we need to do is to multiply. 1 times 6, which is 6. And we will place that. So we need to do 1 times 6, and we'll place the 6 right there. And then we will need to subtract, all right? So subtract is the third step, 11 minus 6. And I will place the difference right there. And the next step is to bring down the next digit that we haven't dealt with yet. So it will be here. That's the bring down. And then we start all over again with divide. So I ask myself, how many times does 6 go into 54? Well, I know that 6 times 10 is 60, so it won't go 10 times. It might go 9 times, so let's try 9. So I will place the 9, I'm doing the divide again, 54 divided by 6. And I'll put my 9 here. And then I will multiply 9 times 6. And 9 times 6 is actually 54. Now it doesn't always work out perfectly like that, but this time it did. And then we have to do the subtract. 54 subtract 54, which is 0. And that means we get a 0 remainder. And so 114 is evenly divisible by 6. We get 19 as the answer. For number 12, I would like you to write this question down and pause the video and try to do the division yourself with the steps of divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. Go ahead and try the practice, and then we'll take it up together. Okay, so the number that is being divided is 1,503. And it's being divided by 9. And so I need to ask myself, well, do I know how many times 9 goes into 1,503? That's a bit high. I don't know that yet. Do I know how many times 9 goes into 150? Not quite sure about that myself. I can estimate it a little bit easier. But anyway, do I know how many times 9 goes into 15? 9 goes into 15 once. That's the divide. The multiply is 1 times 9, which is 9. And then we subtract. And we get 15, subtract 9 is 6. We will bring down the 0. And start all over. How many times does 9 go into 60? Well, 9 times 6 is 54, and 9 times 7 is 63. So 7 is a bit too high, so we better put a 6. 6 times 9 is 54. That's the multiply, and we will subtract. We get a 6. And we bring down the next digit, and we start the process over again. 63 divided by 9. Well, I know that 9 times 7 is 63, so this must be 7. 7 times 9 is 63. 0 is the remainder. It goes in evenly. Unit 5 is about combined operations with whole numbers. So each of the previous units have been on a single operation by themselves, and quite often you have to do combined operations. So let's read question 13 together. A carpenter cuts 3 boards from a 16-foot board. The 3 pieces are 2 feet, 6 feet, and 5 feet. How much remains? So let's take a look. Think about it. There are different ways we could do it. We could take our 16 feet and we could immediately subtract one of those lengths. We will have a new value, and then we could subtract from that another one. And then we'll have a new value, and then we could subtract from that the last one. Or we could realize that the 3 values that we want to subtract, if we add them up, they form a sum. And then subtract that sum from 16. That's the way I like to do it, but you do it whatever way you like. So I'm going to find the sum. I'm going to say we'll do 2 feet, 6 feet, and 5 feet. All right, 2 and 6 is 8, plus 5 feet is 13 feet. Now, the total sum that I need to subtract from my 16-foot board is 13 feet. So I need to do 16 feet, subtract 13 feet, and, well, you can do the long process, but you could probably also figure this one out in your head. But let's see, we'll do it the long way. 6 subtract 3 is 3. 1 subtract 1 is 0, and it's in feet. So 3 feet remain. Now the last question we'll look at for this section is about some more combined operations. Number 14. 2 helpers are hired and paid $16 an hour. One helper works 20 hours and the other works 24 hours. What is the total amount the carpenter paid in wages? So we could do it in 2 different ways. Pause the video and think about how you would like to figure it out. So I could find out the total number of hours worked for the 2 helpers and then multiply that amount by the amount paid per hour by 16. I could also figure out how much each was paid and then add those 2 together. So let's do it the first way I described. The total amount worked. Total hours worked. Oops. Total hours worked. 20 plus 24. 44 hours. And the carpenter needs to pay $16 for each of those 44 hours. So total paid 16 times 44. All right, so let's use our columns again. I'm going to multiply 4 by 6. 4 times 6 is 24. I will place the 4 in this column and I will save the 2. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2, that's 6. 64 is 16 times 4. Now we want to find 16 times 40 by finding 16 by 4. But we're going to move it over, so we need to save a place value by placing a 0 here. Now I will multiply 4 by 6, that's 24, and I'll use my 2, so 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. All right, the way I described this before, this is 16 times 4. This is 16 times 40. By adding them together, we get 16 times 44. So let's add them together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. We'll put the 0 there, and we will save the 1 above here. And 1 plus 6 is 7. So the carpenter had to pay $704. All right, that's the end of section 1. Thank you for watching the video.